Donald Trump was certain he could dominate Jasmine Crockett on live television, confident that his presence alone would silence her. What unfolded instead left him visibly embarrassed and hastily exiting the stage. This was the moment Jasmine Crockett illustrated with precision what true leadership looks like in action. The studio lights gleamed off the polished surface of a table set at the center of the stage, illuminating every detail. The live broadcast had just started, and millions of Americans across the nation were tuned in, eyes glued to their screens. The moderator's voice, calm yet authoritative, welcomed the audience. "Tonight," he declared, "we're discussing the real issues confronting Americans every single day. The skyrocketing cost of living, a healthcare system in crisis, and the fight for justice that touches every corner of our communities." His words hung in the air, deliberate and thoughtful, resonating deeply. These were not hollow phrases. They mirrored the real, ongoing struggles of countless families across the country. Jasmine Crockett sat at the table, poised and composed. Her posture radiated quiet confidence, yet there was an unmistakable seriousness in her expression. She understood the weight of responsibility. Countless citizens relied on her to voice their concerns and fight for their needs. When the moderator turned to her, the studio fell silent. Jasmine leaned forward slightly, her hands resting lightly on the table. Her voice, calm, measured, and warm, carried undeniable conviction. She began with the economy. "Across the nation," she said, parents were juggling multiple jobs and still struggling to keep food on the table. Seniors, who had worked tirelessly their entire lives, were now forced to choose between essential medication and basic necessities. "People are not afraid of hard work," she declared. "They're afraid that even hard work is no longer enough." The camera swept across the audience, capturing subtle nods, thoughtful glances, and expressions of deep reflection. Her words seemed to settle heavily into the room, making the gravity of the issues undeniable. Transitioning seamlessly, Jasmine addressed healthcare, her tone sharpening with urgency. "No one," she said, "should have to choose between taking their child to the doctor and keeping the lights on at home. Yet this is the reality for millions of families. Every delay in action has consequences, and those consequences cost lives." A profound silence followed, the weight of her words pressing down on the room. The moderator glanced around, momentarily taken aback by the sheer stillness. Finally, she moved to her last point. "Justice. When we speak of justice," she explained, "we are not only talking about what happens in courtrooms. We are talking about fairness in our schools, workplaces, and neighborhoods. People are tired of systems that feel rigged against them. They want leaders who fight for ordinary citizens, not just those with power or influence." Her voice strengthened with deliberate purpose. "That's why we are here tonight, not to trade insults, but to explore genuine solutions to the problems Americans face every day." Her words landed with precision. She was not performing. She was leading. For a brief moment, the studio seemed to breathe in unison. Even the camera framing softened, highlighting Jasmine as the anchor of reason in the discussion. The audience leaned forward, absorbed and attentive, sensing the beginning of a conversation rooted in substance. Then, a subtle disturbance shattered the calm, the faint scrape of a microphone. Donald Trump, seated across from Jasmine, leaned forward. He had remained mostly silent up to this point, but the room collectively sensed that when he spoke, the atmosphere would shift. The tension tightened, almost tangible, and viewers at home felt the electricity in the air. Trump cleared his throat, regaining his signature confidence. With a sharp, cutting remark, he pierced the atmosphere Jasmine had meticulously cultivated. The studio froze. Jasmine had just finished outlining her views on the economy, healthcare, and justice, and the audience remained deeply engaged until the interruption. Trump leaned forward, tapping his fingers against the table, his expression an uneasy blend of smirk and glare. He paused deliberately, building suspense. Then he spoke. "You know nothing about America's problems," he sneered, punctuating his words with a short, mocking laugh and dismissive hand gesture. The words sliced through the room, not just their meaning, but the arrogance in their delivery, the audacious claim of dominance over the discussion. Jasmine blinked, unshaken. The moderator hesitated, unsure whether to intervene, while murmurs of surprise and discomfort rippled through the audience. Trump pressed further. "Tell me," he said, pointing directly at her, "are you really from America or from Africa?" The silence that followed was profound. The camera seemed to hesitate, unsure where to focus. Gasps and murmurs swept through the crowd. The moderator froze mid-motion, shocked. Trump leaned back, smug, confident he had landed a powerful blow. He glanced at the audience, expecting applause. None came. Only tension lingered. Jasmine's expression remained calm, but her eyes flashed with restrained intensity. She allowed the silence to stretch, forcing Trump to sit in the discomfort of his own words. When he sensed the stillness, he filled it with a rush of words. "People like you," he said, raising his voice, "keep talking about justice and the economy, but you don't understand America like I do. I built businesses. I created jobs. I made this country strong. You just want to make me look bad because you have nothing substantial to offer." The debate had shifted. It was no longer about policies, but about respect. The camera captured audience members' faces, tense and expectant, waiting for Jasmine's response. This was a moment that could topple even the most composed individual. But Jasmine remained unmoved. She leaned back, hands folded, taking a deliberate, steady breath. Trump's words continued, sharp and rapid, but her composure now dominated the room. Then she spoke. Her gaze was calm, unwavering, and precise, commanding silence. The moderator held his breath. The cameras locked onto Jasmine and Trump, capturing every subtle shift. In a voice controlled and deliberate, almost a whisper to the nation, she asked, "Mr. President, who is your real wife, Ivanka or Melania?" The studio went completely silent. The audience froze. Even the moderator stopped mid-breath. The words were not loud, but they struck with undeniable impact. Trump's smirk vanished. His eyes widened, then narrowed, caught off guard. For a heartbeat, he was frozen. Jasmine held her gaze, unwavering. The camera zoomed in on Trump's face, capturing every flicker of shock, confusion, and rising anger. A few gasps escaped the audience. Whispers rippled through the room. Did she really just say that? Trump attempted a hollow laugh. That's ridiculous, he said, brushing off the comment with a dismissive wave. But Jasmine's composure was unshakable. You made it personal first, she said, her tone calm but sharp. You questioned me. But the American people deserve honesty. When you speak about family values, what exactly do you mean? The audience reacted, some clapping, others quietly cheering. Trump's face reddened. His jaw tightened. He leaned forward, trying to regain control. This is disgusting. You should be ashamed. He snapped. Jasmine remained seated, composed, hands folded. You called me out first, she replied evenly. I'm simply asking what millions of Americans have been wondering. If respect matters, let's be honest about it. The dynamic had shifted. The energy in the room moved toward Jasmine. The audience sensed it. She now commanded the stage without ever raising her voice. The moderator exhaled, aware that this exchange would be replayed endlessly. Trump muttered about the question being below the belt, but Jasmine said nothing. Her silence was more potent than any argument, turning the confrontation on its head. Trump's lips pressed tight. Tension etched his face. For a fleeting moment, it seemed he might recover, but then anger surged. That's a disgusting question, he shouted, slamming his hand onto the table. The audience flinched. You've gone too far, he continued, pointing at Jasmine. She did not move. Calm, unshaken, she held her ground. Trump stood, voice booming, but she remained seated, serene. The moderator started to intervene, then stopped. The debate had evolved into something raw and unpredictable. Trump turned to the audience, seeking support. You all saw it. She attacked me with a personal question. No one has ever treated a president like this. Yet the response was not what he expected. A few scattered claps, then silence. Some even quietly cheered for Jasmine. His face deepened in color. You think this is funny? It's disgraceful. Finally, Jasmine responded, her voice low yet resonant. You began with a personal attack, Mr. President. I stayed on the issues. You made it personal first. The audience erupted, clapping, cheering, whistling. The balance had completely shifted. Trump shook his head, frustrated, trying to speak over the roar, but the noise drowned him out. In exasperation, he tore off his microphone. I'm done with this, he declared, slamming it onto the table and storming off the stage. The cameras followed him as he left, muttering to aides. The audience buzzed, some shocked, others whispering nervously or laughing softly. Jasmine had not moved. She watched him go, then turned back to the moderator and camera. The empty chair beside her was a stark reminder. The president had just walked off a live broadcast. The camera panned across the audience. some smiling, others shaking their heads in disbelief. The tension that had gripped the room now transformed into a profound sense of awe. Something monumental had just occurred. When the room finally quieted, Jasmine spoke softly with measured conviction. This is exactly why we need leaders who focus on real issues, not personal attacks. This isn't a game. People's lives depend on leadership. The room stayed silent, not tense, but deeply respectful. The empty chair, the abandoned microphone, all stood as symbols of what had just unfolded. The atmosphere feels heavier, as if everyone recognizes the significance of the moment. Jasmine sits silently for a beat, then leans toward the camera. "America," she says steadily, eyes fixed forward. "This was never supposed to be about me or about him. It's about you." Her words fall slowly, each one deliberate. When our conversations turn into insults, when we trade personal attacks, we lose sight of what really matters. You, the people working long hours, caring for families, trying to make ends meet. Her tone deepens with sincerity. "I didn't come here to fight. I came to talk about reality. People living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to afford medicine and demanding justice for all. Not just a few." She pauses, letting her words settle. "Yes, I asked a hard question, but it was about integrity. Leadership isn't about who shouts the loudest or hits the hardest. It's about accountability. About being an example for the next generation so they grow up believing in honesty, fairness, and respect." Her voice stays strong but gentle. "You deserve leaders who talk about solutions, not distractions. Leaders who face tough questions instead of walking away. Leaders who put the people first, not their ego." Applause begins softly, then builds until it fills the studio. Jasmine waits for it to quiet before concluding. Donald Trump thought he could silence Jasmine Crockett on live television. Instead, she left him speechless and walking out. This was the night Jasmine Crockett showed the nation what real leadership looks like. Bright lights shine on a sleek stage. Millions are watching across the country. The moderator welcomes viewers. "Tonight we're addressing the issues Americans face daily: the rising cost of living, a broken healthcare system, and the pursuit of justice for all." Jasmine Crockett sits poised and focused. The seriousness of the discussion is written on her face. She knows millions depend on her voice to reflect their struggles. When the moderator turns to her, the room quiets. Jasmine leans forward, hands resting on the table. Her tone is calm and steady, but filled with purpose. "Across this country," she begins, "parents are working 2, even 3 jobs and still struggling to put food on the table. Seniors who've spent their lives working can't afford their medication. People aren't afraid of hard work. They're afraid that hard work no longer guarantees stability." The camera pans to the audience, many nodding, some with emotion in their eyes. The room is quiet, the air heavy with the weight of Jasmine's words. She moves on to healthcare, her tone turning sharper, more urgent. "No one," she says, "should have to decide between taking their child to the doctor or paying the electricity bill. Yet that's exactly what's happening. Every delay in action means more suffering, even death." A pause follows. The silence deepens. The moderator looks almost startled by the stillness in the room. Jasmine then addresses her final topic. "Justice, justice," she explains, "isn't just about courtrooms. It's about fairness in every part of life. At work, in schools, and across neighborhoods, people feel the system isn't built for them. They're tired and want leaders who fight for everyone, not just the powerful." Her voice grows firm. "That's why we're here tonight," she says. "Not to trade insults or throw slogans, but to figure out how to truly fix these problems." Her words land with impact. It's clear she's not there for show. For a moment, the entire studio seems united. Even the cameras adjust, framing her as the voice of reason. The audience looks engaged, nodding, leaning forward. It feels like a real conversation about real change is about to begin. Then a microphone shifts. The sound breaks the stillness. Across the table, Donald Trump leans forward. He hasn't said much yet, but everyone knows when he does. The room shifts. The atmosphere tightens. Even viewers at home can sense it. The tension right before something happens. Trump clears his throat, his signature confidence filling the space again. And with one pointed comment, he slices through the calm Jasmine had built. Jasmine has just finished discussing the economy, healthcare, and justice. The audience hangs on every word. Then comes the shift. Trump's hand taps lightly on the table, a smirk forming as he holds the pause just long enough to command attention. "You know nothing about America's issues," he says sharply, waving his hand dismissively. The sound echoes across the studio. It's not just the words, it's his tone. Dismissive, condescending, the kind that claims control of the room. Jasmine doesn't move. The moderator shifts uneasily. The audience murmurs softly, a mix of gasps and whispers, but Trump isn't done. He leans in closer, his voice louder now. "Tell me something," he says, pointing a finger toward Jasmine. "Are you really from America or Africa?" The room freezes. The words hang like smoke. Cameras hesitate, unsure where to turn, then a collective reaction. Gasps, whispers, disbelief. The moderator looks stunned. Trump leans back, appearing satisfied, expecting laughter or applause, but none comes. The silence feels heavy. Jasmine's face stays calm, but her eyes flash. She doesn't rush to speak. Instead, she lets the silence linger. Trump fills it again, pressing on. "People like you talk about justice in the economy," he says, "but you don't understand America like I do. I built businesses. I created jobs. I'm the reason this country is strong." He points again, his tone rising. "You're just trying to make me look bad because you've got nothing real to say. It's no longer about policy, it's personal." Questioning her place, her right to speak. The camera pans to the audience. Everyone is waiting to see how she'll respond. This is the kind of moment that breaks composure. But Jasmine doesn't waver. She sits back, hands folded, taking a steady breath. Trump continues, words hitting like punches, but her calm begins to draw the focus. Then she looks at him. A long, steady gaze that quiets the room once more. The moderator stays silent. Cameras zoom in. One on Jasmine, one on Trump. The debate has turned into a face-off. Trump leans back, confident he's won this round. Jasmine waits. Then she inhales quietly, the mic catching the sound, heightening the tension. Here ye stay locked on him, not angry, but unshakably calm. Then in a low, measured voice, she asks, "Mr. President, who is your real wife, Ivanka or Melania?" The room freezes. The audience is stunned. Even the moderator goes still. The words aren't loud, but they land like a thunderclap. Trump's smirk vanishes. His eyes widen, then narrow. For a second, he says nothing. Jasmine's gaze doesn't move. The cameras catch everything. The flicker of shock, confusion, and anger crossing Trump's face. The audience stirs, gasps, nervous laughter whispers, "Did you just say that?" Trump finally forces a laugh, hollow and uneasy. "That's ridiculous," he says, waving his hand dismissively. But Jasmine doesn't back off. Her tone remains calm, her words deliberate. "You made it personal," she says. "You questioned where I come from. The American people deserve to know. When you talk about family values, what exactly do you mean?" The reaction is instant. Some clap softly, others cheer under their breath. Trump's face reens. "This is disgusting." He snaps, "You should be ashamed." Jasmine stays composed. "You called me out," she says quietly. "I'm only asking what many Americans have wondered for years. If we're talking about respect, let's be honest. The power has shifted." The audience feels it. Trump looks for a comeback, but it's too late. The room belongs to Jasmine now. She's taken control, not with volume, but composure. The moderator finally exhales, sensing this is a moment that will replay endlessly. Trump mutters about low blows, but Jasmine doesn't respond. Her silence says everything. In that moment, it's clear Jasmine Crockett hasn't just defended herself. She's changed the tone of the entire debate. The silence lingers. Trump's expression hardens, and for a brief second he looks like he might brush it off. But then his composure cracks. That night, Donald Trump thought he could shut Jasmine Crockett down on live TV. Instead, what followed left him speechless and walking off the stage. It became the moment Jasmine Crockett showed the nation what calm, focused leadership truly looks like. The bright studio lights gleam on the stage's polished table. Millions are watching live. The moderator greets the audience with a steady tone. "Tonight we focus on real issues Americans face. The rising cost of living, broken health care, and justice for all. These aren't just headlines. They're daily struggles for millions." Jasmine Crockett sits poised, collected, fully aware of the expectations on her shoulders. When the moderator turns to her, the room goes silent. She begins with the economy. "Across this country," she says, "parents work 2, sometimes 3 jobs just to put food on the table. Seniors who've worked their whole lives still can't afford their medicine. People aren't afraid of hard work. They're afraid that hard work no longer guarantees stability." The audience listens, nodding quietly. You can feel the weight of her words. Jasmine moves to healthcare. "No one should have to choose between taking their child to the doctor or paying the light bill," she says. "But that's the reality for too many. Every delay costs lives." The room stills once more. The moderator looks thoughtful. Then Jasmine speaks on justice. Not just legal justice, but fairness everywhere in schools, workplaces, neighborhoods. People are tired of feeling forgotten. She says they want leaders who fight for everyone, not just the powerful. Her voice steadies. That's why we're here, to fix what's broken, not trade insults. The audience leans in, the air charged with sincerity, and just as the conversation seems ready to turn toward real solutions, the microphone shifts again. Donald Trump leans forward and the energy changes.